What amazes me is this research is several decades old and stands the test of time. And I think we can get lost in new tech. HRV is definitely new tech. And you look at the readiness score that your watches and your wearables give you. But you look at a heart rate profile, and this is something that was done in the 70s and 80s at a really high level. You read a book by Phil Moffatone and you realize there was a lot known many decades ago that still is sound today. So if you take a few heart rate measures, and you can do this at home with any wearable or just counting your pulse for 30 or 60 seconds, you get your heart rate at rest. First thing in the morning before you get out of bed, get a nice heart rate. If it's sub 60, you're doing pretty good. Don't let the old textbooks fool you here where they say 60 to 100 is normal. If you're less than 60, you're doing pretty good. If you're north of 60, it's hopefully by not that much. So that's heart rate at rest. Now we want to see what you can do with some capacity, like as Tony was alluding to. So you do a 5-minute test or a 3-minute test, something that's low skill but allows you to work hard, preferably using most muscles in your body. We love the sled. You could use an assault bike. You could use a kettlebell swing. You could use really a lot of skills. You just want to use the more muscles, the better, and the more low skill, the better, because you don't want to hurt yourself doing the test. So you take yourself to some 3, 4, 5 maximal 5-minute test at a maximal effort, and you get your heart rate max. The separation of those two is called your heart rate reserve. That separation should be 90 beats. For many of us, even people close to ages of 55, 60, 65 years can still get a separation there. So if you have a resting heart rate of 60, you should be able to get your heart rate up to like 140, 150. And for a young athlete, they should blow that out of the water. It's not unheard of that a high-level athlete will have a heart rate, believe it or not, at around 35 to 40, especially if they're a super aerobic, an aerobic athlete. They might have a heart rate at rest at 40, and they might have a maximal heart rate at 200. Now you have 160 beat separation. That's that heart rate reserve. So we look at that. We want that. That's going to show a flexible, mobile, agile heart that can respond. It can de-stress and regenerate and relax to the best of us, and it can raise the roof and more at a very high level and get good oxygenated blood everywhere through the body to do the task at hand. Then after that maximal effort, so we see what your heart rate can do at that maximal effort, which is a function of strength and tolerance and all the good things that we have in our bulletproof progression. And we look at what does your heart rate do after that effort. And that heart rate recovery has some gold to it. And if you take any person, you take them through a 3, 4, 5 maximal effort test, 5-minute test, and if their heart rate doesn't budge much, say it only goes 10 beats, you took them to a heart rate of 140 with a 3-minute test, and if 1 minute later they have less than a 10-beat drop, that is a massive red flag that they have a heart condition coming down the line very, very soon. Their morbidity skyrocketed because of that poor heart rate recovery. So we want that heart recovery to be maximal. Now, you already know that I love UFC fighting. And what I love about fighting is these guys do a 5-minute all-effort test. They get 1 minute to recover. The guy who knocks out people in the beginning of the third round just recovered 10 times better than the other guy. And that's why he could land a crisp hook right to that guy's chin. It's a complete measure of how well can you respond with 1 minute rest and then be at your best that very next second. So, but for the general public, this is a fantastic way of looking at how good a shape are you in? What does your heart rate do after a maximal effort? And we're looking. I think a person that's in good condition can do a 5-minute test. You could even run for 5 minutes as long as your heart rate gets really, really high. And then you look at what your heart rate does 1 minute post, and it should drop about 40, 50 beats. If you do 2 minute, it should be 60, 70 beats. If it's 5 minutes, it definitely should be sub 100, even getting close to your resting heart rate. And that is an agile heart. It's a really phenomenal way of looking at your own physiology. And this is probably the best way of looking at our longevity. How long you want to live? Let's look at aerobic capacity. Nothing else beats that measure unless you want to, measure some negative effects like, do you ride a motorcycle or do you skydive? You're probably not going to live that long. But if you want to look at maximizing your place on this earth, look at your aerobic function. Look at your heart rate.